Hello, and welcome to your Week 2 Lab 1 lecture video for OPS 345. So, this week we're going to continue to build on some of the concepts we learned last week and implement them. I'm just going to kind of give you an overview of the quick overview, kind of review of the theory, and then we're just going to get into the lab. So, these are the slides from last week. Just quick review of the topics we looked at that are relevant to what we're going to do today. We talked about what the cloud is, right? And if you need any of this, the recording is in Teams. We talked about the different architectures and platforms, right? So hybrid cloud, public cloud, hybrid cloud, public cloud, private cloud. I usually start with public and private. We talked about the different cloud-based services, architectures, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, cloud providers, and that led us into AWS. We're going to be using the AWS Learner Lab. You're going to get a free $100 credit, and you should have received an email in your Seneca email address, or Seneca email account. If you haven't, let me know as soon as possible and I'll resend that. But you should have received one. You cannot do anything this week without it, so it's important. Also, last week you should have installed your virtual machine. I'm going to do some kind of customization on my virtual machine before we get into the lab. Minimal things, right? Nothing super crazy. So two of the AWS services we're going to use this week. We're going to use EC2. Which is Elastic Cloud Compute. We talked about that last week. We're going to do some things in here like spin up your instance in the cloud, which is a virtual machine in AWS, basically. And we're going to do some stuff with VPC, Amazon Virtual Private Cloud. So we're going to configure some security groups. I don't think we get into much other than security groups this week. Let me just kind of quickly skim through the lab. Yeah, we don't do much other than the security group this week. Next week in Lab 2, you're going to create a everything, your own VPC and security group and everything. So that's why I had to double check. So those two things. Now, security groups, remember we talked about last week? They're like a firewall as a service, essentially. They control traffic both in and out to your entire cloud. We're going to modify the security group to allow SSH incoming, if I recall correctly. We'll see when we get there. And we're going to do some other stuff too. So, let's get rid of the slides. We don't need them anymore. As you can see, I've got my Linux Mint virtual machine that I installed in last week's lecture. I'm going to get rid of this dialog at the prompt. I have changed it to run in scaled mode, which you can do in the settings if you're using VirtualBox, and it looks a bit better. It's also kind of big at the moment, so let's fix that by going into the settings and change the display. And let's go something a little bit 1920 by 1080. I don't want that. That can go away. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, that's a little better. That things look kind of okay. Packages I tend to install. Chromium's a handy one. Now to install stuff in Linux, you can use the terminal. We're just using apt instead in Linux. I mean Linux Mint. We're going to use sudo. So sudo apt get install Chromium. Should install Chromium, which is open source Chrome. I'm doing this because a couple people, it didn't work. A couple people asked me about things that I tend to install on systems that I'm using, and Chromium is one of those. So we can also just try through the software manager. I don't know why that didn't fucking work. Not found. Weird. going to try an apt update first. Maybe that's what it wants me to do first. And if this starts running, I'm just going to pause while it runs, and you'll see the aftermath, just to make the video a wee bit shorter. Weird. So let's see if this works. I just I went to, this is the software manager, so if you go start software manager and scroll down, you'll see Chromium somewhere. There it is. Let's see if it will install this way. There we go. Don't know why I gotta sort that out later. I think I have to do an apt upgrade instead of update, which shouldn't be an issue, but it is. So I could use Firefox, right? It comes built in, and that's fine. I prefer Chromium, so I'm going to install Chromium. There we go, it's installed. I could launch it there, but I'm just going to close this. And we should see, if I go to Internet, it's right here. I can right-click and add to panel. That'll add it there. And I could remove Firefox from the panel if I want. Just unpin, and there it's gone. And yeah. So, there's Chromium, which is open source Chrome. And let's log into the Learner Lab. Oops. Academy. ACAD.infrastructure.com. I didn't like it. So let's just Google it. I could use the link from the lab, but I didn't. There we go. So I'm going to log in with my credentials. So again, you should have received that email. It says you have to register with Canvas. So you click on the link where it says Get Started. Looks like this. Click this. Set up your account. You should have access to the Learner Lab, which is where we're going to be doing everything this semester. So it's an important thing. So I've logged in. I'm just going to save my password because I'm lazy. And hold on a minute. Having issues. Stuff's not showing up. There should be some stuff here. There we go. I think I'm okay now. Everything looked okay. We'll see if it populates properly. There we go. So you should see in your list this section right here, OPS 345 Winter 2024. That may or may not show up. This part will. And then if we click on, I'm going to go to Student View first. You don't have to go to Student View, you just have Student View. Because I'm an Academy instructor, I have some different stuff that I've got access to. So I'm going to click Student View, and it's going to look like I'm a student. And then you can go to Modules, and click Launch AWS Academy Learner Lab. Now you might want to go through this stuff here because it's useful, and you might want to read the student guide because there's some useful stuff in there, right? They're going to give you more tips than I necessarily will. I'm giving you like the short form. So check that stuff out because it's free. You've got access to it. So the first time you launch the Learner Lab, you're going to have to agree to their terms and conditions. So you scroll all the way to the bottom and click I agree. And I will warn you, the first time you click the start button to launch this, it's going to take a really long ass time. So we got some useful information on the screen here, right? We see AWS here with a red dot currently that indicates that it's off. When you start it, you'll see it goes amber or yellow, and then it goes green. When it's green, it's on, and you can enter by clicking on that link right there. Over here, pretty straightforward. Start lab, starts the lab. End lab, stops the lab. By default, it's set to 4 hours, but you can extend that if you've got a session that lasts more than that. After 4 hours, everything will automatically shut off. And when you click End Lab, it will shut off all the associated resources. So you don't have to worry about shutting down your individual instances because they'll shut down when the lab shuts down. This reset button over here, don't ever touch that. That completely cleans your learner lab and sets it to a new, fresh state. It resets everything. So it'll get rid of all your work. Just leave it. There's some other useful things in here, information on how things work, so you can read around with those. But I'm going to hit Start Lab, and once it's started, I'm going to pause while we wait, but you're going to see right here where I'm circling, the credits used will pop up. I'll talk more about that in a minute. Alright, I finally started. It took it like somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 5 minutes. I wasn't paying attention at the time. So just be forewarned, it might take a few minutes. So if I click the green button link there now, right, I'm good to go. Oh, before I get into that, there we go. So we see our credits used, right, of 100. When you hit 100 of 100 used, your account is disabled, and I can do nothing about it. As long as you follow the lab instructions, you should be fine. You're not going to come anywhere near using that $100. It is going to go up throughout the semester, and that's normal, right? Just don't panic. Don't mess around with services we're not doing anything with, and you should be good. I'm just going to click Next. You should probably read all those things. Now, one of the first things I tend to do with AWS in the Learner Lab is the two services I tend to use the most, I pin them, and I'm going to show you how to do that. If you click Services here, you can see everything, and recently viewed ones are going to come up here. I don't have any recently viewed ones at the moment. I'm going to click on Compute, and I'm going to go find EC2, and I'm going to put a little star next to it. And then I'm going to click on Security down here, and I'm going to find, not security, I wanted networking. Networking and content delivery. And I'm going to find VPC, and I'm going to hover over and click that star. Now what that did is it stuck them right here for quick, easy access. It's a useful thing. So we're going to create a security group first. I think you can get there through EC2. You can also get there through VPC. I'll show you both ways. So if you click on EC2, security group shows up right down here. And note those pins that you put, those little things that you pinned up there, I don't know what exactly they're called, favorites, they show up on every single page. So they're really quick shortcuts to get around. So you can click there and get to security groups in EC2, or you can click VPC. And under security, oh, look at that, there's a link to security groups. You can get there either way, doesn't matter which one you use. We're going to click security groups. Note, there's a default here. We're not going to use the defaults for anything, we're going to create our own stuff. So we're going to create a new security group. We're going to call it, what the hell are we going to call it? OPS 345 first. And we're going to allow SSH inbound. So I'm actually going to intentionally skip it just so I can show you how to fix it. We're not going to do anything else. We're going to leave the default VPC and the default subnet and everything. So we're going to create. To add this rule, you would just click Add Rule and do it. But I'm going to show you what happens if you miss it, just because I think a few people will. And we're going to fix this later anyway. Oh. We have to give it a description too. So there we go. See, if you miss anything, it'll just yell at you and say you got to do it. So there we go. It's creating the security group. Now, I intentionally didn't add that rule. You could have added that rule. If we click down here, we got our rules, right? Inbound, outbound, pretty self-explanatory to what they do, right? Inbound rules apply to incoming traffic. Outbound rules apply to outgoing traffic. This is like your input and output chains in IP tables. So if we go to our inbound rules, now, before we add rules, quick thing about security groups. A security group with no rules won't allow any traffic. There's an implicit deny all. We want to allow SSH. So we can do that one of two ways. We can click here, be lazy and scroll down SSH, and it'll auto-populate this. Or if you happen to remember that it's port 22, you can leave it as it was and just type port 22 in there. Doesn't matter, either is acceptable. We're going to allow SSH traffic from anywhere, which is, if we click the link here, it's the quad 0/0 subnet. And that's going to be IPv4 only. We can optionally give it a description. We just click save, and there's our rule. So that means we're going to be able to get into our VM, our instance. Right, so we're done there. We're going to go into EC2, and we're going to create an instance and stick it in that security group. So, again, a couple ways you can get there. You can click Launch Instance right here. You can go to Instances here, or here. Either works. Click the Launch Instance drop down. I say Launch Instances. And we're going to create our first instance. So I'm going to call it OPS. Looks like I'm in the lab. It's 435 first. We're going to use Amazon Linux. Make sure it's Amazon Linux 2023 because that's the newer one that we're going to be using. For the type, we're going to use T2 Micro, which is what it's already set. That's the default. Keep scrolling down. Come on. You can do it. We're going to create a new key pair. We're going to call it OPS345 first key. The rest is fine. It's an RSA encrypted key, and it's a .pem file. We're going to click Create. And that's going to download automatically. It's going to go into our Downloads folder. We're going to move it afterwards. Under Network Settings, we're going to leave the existing the VPC. That's the default. A note when we do next week's, we're going to have to change that, so we're going to click at it and change that. But we don't have to do anything now. We're going to select the existing security group. We're going to check OPS345 first. And we don't need to change any of the storage or anything. We're all good. We're just going to click Launch. We double check and make sure that we are actually all good. Yeah, we're going to click Launch. And there we go. Good to go. It says successfully launched. You can click here. It'll take you right to the instance. You can go back to instances. You'll see the instance there. We can click there to see what's going on. If we go back to instances for a second, which you can get there this way too, right? We see the state, so it's pending, then it's running. It might take it a minute before it's fully functional. I'm going to click on the instance. Now we see we got a public IP automatically. We got a private IP automatically in our well, the default VPC. Default uses a 172 subnet. Now there's a couple different ways we can connect. The first one I'm going to show you is the command line. If we click on the connect button, we will see all of them here. So we click on SSH client, and we can actually just copy this command right here, because that will be unique to the IP and everything that we have here. And look, it even has the name of our PEM file. Oops. I'm going to move that folder. I'm going to create or move that file. It's in our downloads directory. If I do an ls, there it is. I'm going to make a folder. Tilde OPS 345 keys SSH. Oh, and I need the -p option because I'm creating the parent directories all in one go. And then I'm going to move that PEM file to OPS 345, the directory I just created. And then I'm going to change that directory. So there's my file. I'm going to paste the output of my command, hit enter, and see what happens. It's going to fail. Oh, permissions are too open. So it tells you kind of what to do here. But the solution is it wants the permissions, which we're going to set with the chmod command, on that key to be 400. And then we hit up twice to get our other command back, and this should work now. And we're in. Awesome. So that's good. That worked. We're in. Just gonna leave that open. I'll exit now. Maybe it's beneficial to show you connecting again. Now, if you lose that PEM file, you cannot get into your virtual machine, or your virtual machine, so your instances in AWS at all. It's not saved anywhere else. You're completely locked out. You're fucked, and you have to do everything again. So don't lose it. Back it up somewhere securely. Back it up on an external USB flash drive. If you're working on your laptop, copy it to your laptop. Maybe copy it to a flash drive as well, or an external drive or something. Because if you lose that key, you're going to be locked out of everything. Now, if you lose it between this lab and next week's lab, you're going to have the option to create a new one, but that new one won't let you into your existing instance. So, you're fine. However, there's another way to connect as well that I'm going to show you. Click on Instance Connect, and you just click this Connect button. You should get, give it a second, hopefully it doesn't fail on me. You should get a command line, look at that, in your web browser. So that's great. And to get out of that, you can just close the window, or type exit, and then close the window. That's fine. Back to our command prompt. So you can use either, just keep that in mind. Also, that Instance Connect, I believe, does work if you lose your PEM, but try not to lose it. So we're going to do a couple things. We're going to create our own user. The lab tells you to delete the EC2 user, the default. I'm not going to delete it, just leave it, it's fine. But we are going to create our own, so you get used to using your user just like you did in OPS 245, right? So sudo user add -ems, because you want a home directory, jam Carmen. There we go. We're going to want to give them sudo access. So sudo vi etc sudoers.d /10-ops345-users, and we're going to add all equals, all no password all, and that's going to allow us to sudo without a password. And we're going to want to steal those keys, which is something you don't usually do, but we do in this course, because we have that key, right? You could create a new one, but I don't know. So let's switch to root temporarily. Sudo -i. There we go. And if we do an ls-al on .ssh, we see we have our keys. We're going to copy those. To your username. And recursively change the owner on it. Whoops. There we go. And let's see if stuff works. So I'm going to exit. And we're just going to hit up, and we're going to change this to our new user. That's weird. That's weird. What did I fuck up? I'm going to pause and figure it out. Alright, so it didn't like that for some reason. I did some troubleshooting to figure out what was going on. And here's what I did. I tried switching to root and copying that directory again and overwrite everything after I disconnected and reconnected, and I can connect everything. And then I decided to look at the files. So if I look at, I'm in EC2 user right now, I see .ssh authorized keys. This is what it looks like here, right? I'm going to copy that. Actually, I don't even need to copy that. If I look at the one in my JM Carmen directory, I see this extra nonsense in front of it, right? It should just begin with SSH. So I'm going to open that with vi. I'm going to go into insert mode. This should hopefully fix it. I'm just going to delete everything, all that other crap there that was causing it to exit. And let's see if I'm good to go now. I'm good to go now. That was bizarre. Usually you don't have to do that, but also usually you don't steal another user's keys and then delete that user. So I don't know. I don't know why I did that. Maybe a new change to Amazon Linux since last semester, because it totally worked last semester. Almost done. Almost done. We're going to set the host name. And yeah, I got access. So yeah, root access on my regular user. Just leave the EC2 user. It's fine. Deleting it doesn't really add a whole lot in the way of security, because if you don't have this key right here, you cannot log in. And you're not going to stick that key on the internet somewhere and say, hey, take this key, hack me, right? You're just not going to do that. So you should be fine. So we're going to set the host name, sudo hostname ctl set dash hostname first jmcarmen.ops345.ca. You're going to set that to yours, right? And that will not work until you reboot. But if you just type sudo hostname, you see it there. To reboot, you're going to need sudo. It's going to kick you out. Give it a couple minutes, you'll be back in. Take it a minute or two. Let's try. Still rebooting. It's going to fail. I'm just going to pause while we wait. Again, you're going to get a short video this way, so hey. Right. So it's been a minute or two since I said I was pausing. Just I logged in to see it was up and disconnected and tried it again. And there we go. We see we're good to go. That's all you need to submit this week. Just a screenshot of this right here showing that you can connect, and why not your host name too? Or if you type hostname CTL, you should see more information there, right? Hostname works too. So screenshot showing you're logged in and you've changed your host name. You're good to go. Take care. Be safe. Have a great week. Thank you for watching. See you in class. Bye for now.